Hey guys, and welcome to the final episode in this series of Masterclass, where we've talked all about the basics of making a film, from shot composition and lighting, to recording sound, to editing, and colouring. So what's left? Sound effects and music, of course. Sound effects and music are hugely important when it comes to filmmaking. Let's take Star Wars for example. Without sound effects, we'd never hear that iconic sound of a lightsaber or Darth Vader's breathing. It would just sound like this.
Start tearing this ship apart piece by piece until you find those tapes. Find the passengers of this vessel. I want them alive!
And without music, we'd miss some of the greatest film scores known to man. And more importantly, we wouldn't know when a scene is over in 2.5 Men. Okay, that last part was a joke, but in all seriousness, music can completely influence the emotional state of your audience to a massive degree. Think about some of those iconic scores from movies you've seen. How do they make you feel? If you answer with, "they make me feel," then they've done their job. So let's focus on sound effects first, because you guys have been bugging me about this for ages. Where do you get your sounds? Where can I get them? Can I have a download link? Well, I'm gonna tell you, okay? There are virtually thousands and thousands of sound libraries out there, but here's just a few that I use frequently. First off, Video Copilot's Motion Pulse and Designer Effects. I've used Designer Effects mostly for my Flash episodes, but there's an extensive library of impacts, swishes, and ambient sounds for you to choose from. Motion Pulse is packed to the brim with what you'd call trailer sounds. And by that I mean, watch any modern action movie trailer and then go check out Motion Pulse. The most recent use for this pack was my Ant-Man shrinking effect. I combined a couple of sounds and ended up with this. Next up, Film Riot's Fighting Effects and Lord of War and Fighting Sound Effects packs. Loads of awesome gun sounds, both practical and Hollywooded, and also fighting sounds that are excellent Foley for any fight scene. It's a little pricey, but if you can wait for a discount code, do it. Another massive resource, virtually anything from boomlibrary.com. These guys have everything from forest sounds, creatures, debris, vehicles, weapons. The point I'm making is they've got a lot of stuff to choose from. The downside is that, like Homer looking at that spot on the wall at Moe's, it's gonna cost ya. So everything I've talked about thus far is all paid content. Shall we move on to some free stuff? So as far as free stuff goes, surprisingly, YouTube. If I can't find a sound I'm looking for in any of my packs, first thing I do is a YouTube search. You'd be surprised at how many free sound effects channels exist on YouTube, and the bulk of the time, you're gonna find exactly what you need. Some examples of effects I've found on YouTube are the arrow shooting effect from my Arrow episode, the Spider-Man web sounds, and a lot of fart sounds too. And guess what? If you can't find it there, what else are you gonna do? Google it, of course. Just type in exactly what you need, and chances are you're gonna find it. I know this seems obvious, but I get asked this question a lot, and the answer doesn't change. Just make sure to be as specific as you can when you're searching. Now, you heard me mention before that I combined some sounds to get what I needed for the Ant-Man sound, and this is something you should experiment with. Don't just slap a sound in and say, good enough. If you think it needs a little something more, throw something in there. In fact, let's look at an example. Alright, so let's first have a look at this shot without the sound. Pretty underwhelming. I mean, it's a cool effect, but it needs something. So we'll head to the point where our sound will kick in, about here. Now for the base of this sound, I used a sound called Power Whoosh from Motion Pulse. Here's what it sounds like in full. Now I don't necessarily need the full sound, just the second half, so I'll just trim it here and then have a listen. We'll then drag that onto the audio track on our footage and have a listen. Not bad, but it does need some thickening up. So what I'll do is grab a heavy stomp from Video Copilot's Designer FX and drop that in as well. Now let's have a listen. At the moment, that heavy stomp is a little overwhelming and it's drowning out the sound of our Power Whoosh. So what we'll do is we'll head into the audio mixer and turn the volume down on our heavy stomp. Now let's have a listen. Much better. But I think I'll add one more sound just to give it a bit more of a mechanical feel, sort of like a tss. So I'll head up once more, grab this lever sound and then drop that straight in. Now let's have a listen. Not bad. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction, as I'm just giving you a quick overview. So basically, we've taken our sound from just one bass effect that sounds like this, to a much richer effect that sounds like this. Pretty easy, and it really didn't take that long at all. So we've talked about sound effects. Now let's talk about the other crucial element of your film, music. Firstly, if you think that you can use music from a movie or TV show or something of a soundtrack or album and get away with it, you won't. And your content might very well be taken down, and you'll probably end up with a copyright strike if you try and monetize it. So let's talk about some of the libraries out there that you won't get slapped with a copyright notice. First off, YouTube's Creator Library. This started off kinda small, but in the past 12 months it has grown a hell of a lot and contains hundreds of tracks that you can use for free in your videos. Some do require that you credit the author, but that's no big deal. I use this library extensively for my videos, and if you haven't checked it out, I urge you to do so. Next up is Video Copilot's Pro Scores. Now, after watching a bunch of your shorts for the competition, most of you know about this library, I gather. The problem is that a lot of you just grab a track and plonk it onto your footage. Pro Scores actually has an editorial section that allows you to custom build a track from scratch, and they actually have some tutorials on how to do that on the site. I rarely use this anymore since, it's so overused now, but it's still a great resource. Next up, and I'm sensing a theme here, Film Riot's Cinema Toast Crunch. Again, some great sound-alike royalty-free scores that contain some editorial clips to custom build some scores. I'm guilty of using this a fair bit last season, and I'm probably going to continue doing so, because it's pretty awesome. Next up, and no surprise at all, is Boom Library with their Cinematic Trailer Bundle. This features some really cool stings, hits, crescendos, and I use the hell out of these things. Once again, not cheap, but worth the money. Some other places you can visit are freeplaymusic.com, Free Music Archive, and royalty-free paid sites such as Audio Jungle, Pond5 and more. Now guys, no matter what road you go down as far as music goes, the number one thing you have to make sure is that the music complements your scene and suits the tone you're presenting. For example, you wouldn't put banjo music in a hefty dramatic scene, and you wouldn't throw a swelling epic score over a fart joke, unless it was like a really good fart.
Oh come on, it's not that bad.
Both music and sound are added in the later stages of post-production, and in most cases, the edit of the final film is pretty much a lock. So if there's any advice I can give you on music and sound effects, it's this. Make sure your scene works without music and sound effects before you add them. It may look stupid to have a fight scene with no punch sounds and that pulse-pounding score when you're editing, but trust me when I say that if you get the edit to work without them, then that scene will be so much better when you add them in. You don't put your pants on and then your undies, because it doesn't work. So don't make your film back to front either. Once again, having said that, the rules do change if you have a montage or a title sequence that you already have a song in mind for. If that's the case, then drop that song in and go for it. A good example of this is my Fun with Lego short. I already had that song in my head before I began the edit, so I was able to customize the montage to suit the song I chose. Now gang, like I've said many times during this season of Masterclass, making a film is a very personal thing. You're taking an idea and turning it into something tangible, and you should be proud of that accomplishment whether the finished product works or not. We're all learning here, and as filmmakers, our learning never really ends. Now guys, this is the last episode in this series of Masterclass. There'll probably be another series in the future. The next one might be focusing on After Effects basics or Premiere Pro basics or whatever I feel like really. In any case, I hope this series has given you a better insight on the basics of filmmaking as a whole, and for myself personally, it's been great to talk to you about something other than effects for a change. As always gang, if you enjoyed the video, please like and share it. If you're new here, the subscribe button is ready for your cursor's clickiness. To stay up to date with everything coming up on the channel, here's the Facebook, here's the Twitter, and I'll see you very soon for Film Learnin Season 4.